All right, and welcome back to another episode of the Junior T Podcast. And back with me this week, my co-host Ogarth.
What's up, everybody?
It's nice to have you back. And for this week, we are back to cover a frustrating loss, understandably, for the UCF Knights in what was a tough game and a loss to a very competitive Tulsa team in a 35-20 loss for the Knights. And it was kind of a night that was marked a lot by just for Coach Frost's words himself, it was a sputtering offense, which the slow start happened again. That's happened the past couple weeks, and it ended up hurting the Knights badly this time as they failed to score an offensive touchdown until, about 12 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And that's something that can be a little bit of a recipe for disaster in any kind of game, to score your first touchdown so late in the game.
Yeah, it's not a Alabama team where our defense is outstanding where you could do that. So once you do that, you already know it's most likely a loss.
Yeah, to kind of praise the defense a little bit was that they did come out strong, and they did what they've done the past couple weeks, was score some points on offense as a pick six on the first drive by DJ Killings to kind of start senior night off right, and looked like it was going to be a fun game for the Knights, but just the offensive woes, they kept coming, and it really hurt the Knights in the long run.
We talked about it time and time again, better quarterback play, better running game, and it's just not there right now.
And I was actually able to be on the field with Leland for us to shoot and just kind of see the game from that perspective, and get the post-game press conference as well. And it was kind of that sentiment as well, as that quarterback play. I mean, Frost said it himself, a lot of open throws that were missed. And that leads to, I'll get the exact numbers. I enjoy pulling this up. He was 25 of 51 passing. That's not good. Yeah. And that means a lot of open throws were missed, and it was just that the Knights got behind and got out of what they like to do, which is run the ball, and it made what was already been troublesome quarterback play a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, especially when you look at QBR. His QBR is 21.2.
It was not. Being on the sidelines, it wasn't a pretty game. I mean, I kind of was like, I didn't realize he threw the ball 51 times. Like, I guess you kind of get lulled into the game where you're just like, oh my goodness, he's throwing it again.
Yeah, he throwing it again, throwing it incompletion again.
Yes. And it just was overall is that the defense was out there a little too long, and it's not good at the end of the day. I mean, to put it lightly, that though time of possession was a little bit better than I thought this game was going to be. Even though I was on the sideline, I kind of called it about 52-48, and it was that where Tulsa was on the field for 32 minutes, 43 seconds, as opposed to the Knights for 27-17, who didn't want to do the math at home. But and it was more that it was not the amount of time they were out there, it was the frequency of when they were out there, as there were a lot of times where they would get a good 3 and out, and there'd be a muffed punt.
Yeah,
there'd be a quick 3 and out on the offensive end, so the defense is right back out there on the field. And any quality offense like Tulsa was, as we did know going into this game, that Tulsa wasn't going to be a slouch on offense, and they brought that, and it just wore the defense down at the end of the day.
Yeah, as you can see, they had 21 points coming out of halftime, so defense was tired coming out already, and they scored back-to-back, and that really hurt.
It was a really hard third quarter. It was not a fun third quarter, as well, not necessarily things got out. I mean, it got out of hand. It didn't get ugly, but Coach Frost was like, it didn't get out of hand when asked the question about this, and I was like, it did get out of hand, but we all have to keep our own positive spin on this, and a sentiment that Coach Frost echoed in the post-game press conference, and I actually was able to ask Coach Frost a question during the press conference as well, and I'll mention that briefly after this, but is that kind of realized that is something that we've kind of talked about, not explicitly, but has kind of been the sentiment this year, is that this is still the same team as last year.
Yeah.
And he's like, what we're doing right now is we have an 18-year-old quarterback and a lot of other 18-year-old players. We took an 0-12 team and made them 6-4, which is a big accomplishment. But the talent level and talent-wise, UCF isn't there yet to make a lot of mistakes. Yeah. Have a lot of 3 and outs to put the defense back out there to be on the field a long time, and to expect to compete and win against teams that are, Tulsa, we like to make fun of the AAC, but they're 8-3 on the year. Yeah. That's not bad. That's a great record on the season. And to be able to compete against those teams, to eventually push ourselves up, talent-wise, or at least we have to execute better, because Coach Frost said himself, the margin for error is very small for this team, and the amount of mistakes we made last night just was not going to equal a win.
Yeah, especially you can see after halftime they came out, fans started leaving, and that's a big thing to have your fan base there. So especially when you don't have home wins, that's one thing we don't have this season.
That's something that it's very important. While winning any game is good, to win in front of the home crowd is important. And I was impressed last night was that we were able to get a pretty good crowd out there, because Leland and I, we didn't know. We're like, who knows, because you never know what's going to show up. But it was a pretty decent crowd. And then after halftime, which is always the big determining factor, there was a pretty solid crowd that stayed. And even after that ugly third quarter, a lot stayed till the very end of the fourth. Well, and it was nice to see, as a lot of seniors probably wanted to enjoy their senior night, win or lose, to be able to be in that stadium a full time one last time. But it was nice to see that there were fans that stayed, even though if I was a fan myself, I probably would have been leaving, because the product on the field, at least offensively, was not worth staying, in my opinion. But it is a work in progress, and something that Leland said to me after the game was that kind of we're taking our licks this year with these young players to make next year better.
Yeah, I think that's why he keeps Milton on the field. That's a big reason.
Because one big question was whether or not there was talk of putting Holman in.
Yeah.
And he actually acknowledged there was some talk of that. There was a lot of talk of that on the sideline as to whether or not to do it. And they said at the end of the day that it was better to keep Milton out there just for the sake of, because these are important reps now. Mm-hmm. And that was something that Coach Frost had said earlier, that's why he's excited about the bowl game. It's not the extra game, it's more about the extra practices.
Yeah.
They're going to be able to give these guys start for next year, to already have a full season under their belt, to start practicing for next year, and then to be able to roll it out with a real competitive game in a bowl game.
Yeah, I think he's preparing for the future more than playing for this year, which some people don't like at all.
Yeah.
But then again, it's win and lose, so seniors might not like it.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. And Mark Rucker and Shaquille Griffin were in the post-game press conference as well, and it was very interesting. It's kind of go back to that Holman thought again briefly, was that his name was brought up a couple times by them. And I was impressed, because they said he's been a real leader in the locker room, even though he's kind of been reduced to this backup role, but that he's been able to still be an emotional leader, if not a physical one out on the field, but to really be that rallying factor for this team as they've gone forward throughout the season. And you got to take your hat off to a guy like that in this situation where this was his senior year. He started the year as the starting quarterback, and then now has been reduced to backup role, like does cleanup jobs if we're up by a lot, to still have that energy and to be able to lift up your teammates. That's something that says something. But I think he should have played last night.
Most definitely.
Maybe not in the sense of starting, because that's an argument we can have, and we talked about it's prepping for next year. So that's a matter of opinion at this point. But I think towards the end, as it got out of hand, I think he was deserved as a senior who's gone through a lot on this team, to be able to get some reps, to be able to finish his home college career in front of that home crowd.
Yeah, I think most definitely should have been put in, especially when they started getting poured on in third quarter. They should have pulled Milton right there. Yeah,
but I mean, it is what it is, and it's just tough, because a lot of hindsight's 20/20. So you're always going to know what you should have done or what would have looked better at the time, but as a team, you just can't question yourself. And for just to briefly reference the question, I was able to ask Coach Frost, and there is a video of it. That link will be in the description, and I will also put it under our events coverage playlist on our channel. Was just kind of asking about, because it looked like for about 5 minutes left in the third quarter when stuff started to get really not great.
Yeah.
It looked like Coach Frost kind of pulled the offense over and was kind of speaking with them. It kind of looked like he was saying something. And I wanted to find out what it was, and so that's why I straight up asked, like, what would you say? And gist is that he said he kind of gave them kind of a pep talk, and if you want to see his full answer, because he did actually give me a nice answer, I will say, and it will be in that video, and it was just neat to be involved in all of that, as it was something very, very new. And hopefully for other games and even more football games in the future, we'll be able to do and just get in there and be more comfortable and have a little bit more of a presence. It'll be something to look forward to for the future. But to then just briefly turn this into the next game, as we look forward to the War on I-4.
Yeah, that's a big one.
The title match comes up, as it is the pinnacle match of the War on I-4. I'm sure a lot of other sports would disagree, but football's king. Look at the money. As we do travel down to Tampa and Raymond James Stadium, the home of my Tampa Bay Buccaneers, to play USF, who actually came off what was a tight win against SMU yesterday. I think it was like 35-27. But the key point that I want to kind of hammer home before we move on was that USF's defense has not been very good this year.
Yeah.
Which could provide an opportunity for our not very great offense.
So it has to be an interesting one.
Yes.
Especially from that standpoint.
It will be something to watch. And actually, it'll be a lot easier to watch because you don't have to conflict over Turkey Day with watching it, as the game was moved to the 26th, which is Saturday, and it'll be a noon game. Ooh, it'll be hot, so I'm glad I'm not going. But it should be a good game, as weakness against weakness for USF and UCF on each other. But their offense is very good.
Yeah.
As names to watch that UCF needs to be aware of for USF, that's always such a freaking tongue twister. But they need to look out for their quarterback, Quentin Flowers, who has had an amazing season. For a guy who looks like he's going to break his freaking arm throwing the ball, he has thrown it very well this year, and it's been a lot of USF coverage that I follow because I have a lot of family and connections in Tampa, saying that there should be some Heisman talk. I don't know about that.
No.
I think it should be like at least acknowledged to say like he's had a phenomenal season. He's been the best quarterback in Florida this year by 1.5 miles. And that's something that should at least be acknowledged, to say like he's had a great season. Now, to say he's Lamar Jackson,
he's not.
No, he's not. But he is a very talented quarterback that the Knights are gonna have to watch out for. And Marlon Mack, the running back, that's their best player on offense. Flowers is the one that makes it go and is very shifty, but Mack is that's their horse.
Yeah, that's the
powerhouse.
powerhouse.
And he's a very talented back. And then a guy I'm not super high on, but my dad loves for USF, and he has had a pretty good season, is Rodney Adams.
Yeah.
And he has been pretty talented. And it's a little bit of everything that the Knights are going to have to watch out for on defense, and it's going to be up to the offense to hold on to the ball long enough to score points against this defense that has struggled, to be able to give that defense the rest and time to be able to fully combat that very high-powered USF offense.
If they keep putting defense back on the field, that's going to be an ugly game.
It's going to be a long game, just like it was last year. But I'm very optimistic to think that they're going to get hyped up for this one, as a lot of seniors are going to want to go out well with this big rivalry game to kind of show out. And it'll be something to watch for this coming Saturday at noon. And for other sports that have kicked up was women's basketball. They've had a very successful start to their season. I believe they started off like 2 or 3-0, then dropped their last game, but that's a fantastic start under a new head coach.
Yeah, the whole athletics program's being redone, so UCF's coming back, slowly rebuilding themselves. So that's always good.
And it's a big turnover, because there was actually one holdover from last season, which is a sport we've covered modestly in soccer, men's soccer, and actually that coach was fired and let go. So there will be all the sports across the board, for the most part, all have new coaches, and it'll be something to look at to see how these programs, where they may not have a great year this year, but it's something to look to next year as these coaches get into their systems and see what they can do. But women's basketball, it's an awesome start for them. But the real story, and we've actually gotten some national recognition for, is the men's basketball team.
Yeah, the men's basketball team came out real hot.
Yes, they had a big win over their home opener against Nichols, which I'm sure I made fun of Nichols the last show when we talked about this, but you tell me where Nichols is, and then I'll tell you whether or not it's a real place. And it was a great start to their season, and they've played a couple other games in the Charleston Classic tournament, whatever it is. I don't know. There's a lot of other pretty good teams that they've played, but they started off 3-0 so far with some pretty commanding victories. While it may not be very talented teams they've played, it's been dominating wins by the Knights, which is something you got to do when you play the Cupcakes early in the year. And the big story has been Taco. He is coming back, and he has developed a basketball game. I mean, he's a game now. That's something that last year the size is there, and the mind's there. I think he's an engineering major or something like that.
He's a smart guy.
Yeah, he's a very smart guy. Just teach him how to give him some moves in that sense. And he looked like he's come out with that, because I was actually able to watch their game against Mississippi State, where he had 24 points. It was a career high for him, and looked good.
Yeah, he could actually. They said he came in unprepared. Basically, his body type wasn't
Yeah,
right. So
it's tough.
It looks like he's actually in shape, ready to go now.
And that's a credit to Johnny Dawkins
Yeah.
for putting him in the right places. Why Donnie Jones is not here. That Johnny Dawkins is able to get something out of this, because there are a lot of talented players there, and it's going to take some recruiting to make the Knights a powerhouse. But I think that not necessarily we'd be talking about a deep run into March, but to make a run to get to March, I think is a realistic thing. And we had a countdown for the UCF football team to get the 6 wins for a bowl game.
And it happened.
We were counting to 20 for basketball.
Yeah.
So they just need 17 more wins. And their next opportunity to keep going will actually be after we recorded this. So the score will most likely not be included, which is that they are playing the defending champs Villanova in the Charleston Classic tournament, whatever, for the championship of it tonight at 9:30, or when this was recorded, but it'll already have been happened. But, I mean, if they're able to come out and have a strong showing against the defending champs, that would be something.
Not necessarily a win, but just a strong, a close game.
That would be something I would be very proud of to see. And another player that, before we completely wrap up basketball, was B.J. Taylor coming back. And he has kind of reasserted himself in the offense, because there was a lot of talk last year with A.J. Davis having such a great year that, do the Knights miss B.J. Davis? No, B.J. Taylor. Screwing up my names. B.J. Taylor, whether or not they miss him. And definitely true that last year it would have been very helpful to have him. But I think the combination of the trio of A.J. Davis when he gets back from this broken hand he has, then B.J. Taylor, who will just continuing getting more into the groove of games, even though he's come out strong so far, and Taco, if he's able to keep it up against some better opponents, that Knights could be a problem for a lot of teams. And
if they can resist injury also.
Yes,
so
that's something that's always a tough time with seasons like this that are so many games, that 20 is a big number, but you can get there quickly. And it's just something that it'll be a number to watch and a story to watch, as we will dive into basketball as soon as football's over, which we only have a couple more weeks of football. I mean, if anything, we just have next week to cover for UCF game, and then we're waiting for the bowl game.
Yeah.
So basketball will definitely be a focus, as we really want them to have a good year this year, and we're going to try and get to that 20 wins to either get a nice NIT bid or a March Madness bid.
Yeah,
which would
March
be a lot of
Madness
fun.
would be great.
It'd be a lot of fun.
We could go a deep run like Florida Gulf Coast a couple of years ago.
That would be something. And it'll just be a great story to look at, and I think I think right now we can credit it to Johnny Dawkins for taking a lot of the same players. There's not any new players. I mean, that was one of the critiques of this team, was that not a lot of young guys. I mean, Taco's the youngest guy, but I mean, he's already been here a year and stuff like that. There are not really any Johnny Dawkins guys here right now, and he's able to take what was a solid talent base, and he's getting some returns on it right now. And I think that he's very well respected in the sporting community as a whole. I think he's gotten like endorsements from like Tony Dungy, that's football. Yeah. And then he's also gotten, more importantly, Mike Krzyzewski, which is Coach K for Duke. And if you're not aware of him, just Google his win-loss record for Duke and how many national championships, and that'll show that I'll take his word.
Yeah.
And it'll just be that hopefully he has his team on the right track, and that they continue to build off of this strong start, and it'll be a story to follow throughout the season. All right, and then our brief rundown of some UCF events that are coming up is, if anyone wasn't aware, there was an SGA-sponsored Light Up UCF night, which was free for all students. And the next one will actually be today, when this episode is coming out, Tuesday, tonight, to go and check it out, as it is free, as your SGA money is going towards it, so go check it out. And other upcoming games, there will be some home UCF basketball games of men and women's coming up. I believe both of them will be this coming weekend, Saturday and Sunday. I believe the men's games are like about 7 in the evening for each. So look forward to those games that are coming up. Go check them out and support your team. And before we get out of here, we'll do some picks.
Yeah. Okay. I know we didn't pick last week, but I'm still in the lead.
Yes.
Anyone forgot.
5-3 is the total.
Okay, so we're going to do the Washington and Washington State game.
Yes. This game, I think, should be a lot closer than we thought. Washington State's offense has been very good, but I think I'm going to roll Washington.
I'm going to roll Washington also for that game. And then we have the Michigan-Ohio State game.
This game, I don't know. Where is it?
It's going to be...
Is it in Ohio?
I believe so. Yes.
I don't know. I think I know where you're going to pick. For the sake of competitiveness, I don't know if Michigan will win. But for the sake of competitiveness, I will pick Michigan. Just for the sake of, who knows? Jim Harbaugh always has something up his sleeve. And I think if their quarterback play can be a little better than it was against Indiana this week, they could be able to do something, as their defense is very competitive with the Jabril Peppers.
He's wearing short sleeves, so he'll have nothing up his sleeve this week.
All right.
And Ohio State will get that win.
I knew where you were going to pick, but we'll see. It'll be a very close game, as a lot of these Big Ten matchups have been all year.
And then we have the last
big
one,
rubber match.
Florida State. Frankly, I don't want to choose any of them. I hope they both lose, but I will go Florida State. I will go Florida State.
This one's tough. And we already picked one different, but I don't trust Michigan. I will pick Florida. I think that they should not have won that LSU game this past week. And I think defensively, there's enough there. And Florida State's defense has not been what it has in the past. So I'm gonna roll Florida. As unfortunate as for me to say that, but we will roll Florida.
And our last twist pick, UCF. USF.
Oh, well, UCF. All of my family will pick otherwise, but I'm rolling Knights.
Yeah, go to Charge On.
Yes, War on I-4, we're going to extend that lead. All right, and before we get out of here today, we'll wrap it up with our final quotes, but before that, we will just do all of our thank yous to OSI Podcasts at UCF for letting us in the door. Thank you, Zoe, our studio director, for letting us in. And thank you, Leland, promote yourself, for taking all of our pictures, shooting and editing all of our lovely footage. Thank you. And now we'll get into our final quotes. Do you want to go first?
Well, this week I decided to do a little more facts than quotes.
Yes, we did go
So
facts.
I'll go first. It says, if your DNA was stretched out, it would go from Earth to the moon 6,000 different times.
Oh my God, that is crazy. That's crazy. Walt Disney, the creator of Mickey Mouse, had musophobia, which is the fear of mice. Yes. All right. That has been another episode of the Jimmy T Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe after you watch.
Follow me on Twitter.
We'll see you next week.
Charge On.